Hi everyone and welcome back to Inside Success. In this episode, I've been very lucky to be joined by international DJ, producer and artist Scott Gray. I was lucky enough to spend some time with Scott whilst I was out in Ibiza and we got to talk through his career. He started his career back in England for over 20 years as a recruiter, which I don't think many people knew about, before taking that plunge and doing that dream move of going to Ibiza, where he still remains today, 13 years on. Joined by Scott Gray. Hi Scott.
Hello, how are we doing?
Who is one part of Melon Bomb.
Correct.
Which is a DJ collective based in Ibiza.
Yep.
And plays and tours globally.
Yeah.
Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, we'll take that.
So, how do I know yourself, Scott? By random circumstances, to be honest with you. Obviously, I've known about you from conversation with colleagues within the recruitment industry for a very long time.
Oh, really? I knew about Daryl.
You knew about Daryl,
yeah.
And obviously we've worked with
Rod, yeah.
and Rod and Luke,
yeah, of course, yeah.
And a few of the other faces.
Yeah.
But obviously, when they're talking about you, I didn't put two and two together. That obviously your starting life was in recruitment.
Mm. Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, interestingly, yeah.
So today we're recording, if you're only listening to this on the podcast rather than seeing this on YouTube, we are sitting in the beautiful island of Ibiza.
In my neighbourhood, actually, in Santa Ilaria.
Santa Ilaria.
Yeah.
So we're only literally 5 minutes away from where you live.
That's right, yeah.
And where you've been for a very long time. But we'll get into that into a little while.
Okay, great.
So the podcast itself is about discussing and talking about long-term success, the twists and turns, and from your point of view, the complete change and of lifestyle and diversity of your world. Obviously, one of my big passions is music. So opportunity to come to Ibiza to do a podcast about an ex-recruiter who decided to up sticks and change his whole lifestyle to Ibiza, kind of ticks every box under the sun for me. So I appreciate your time today.
Cool.
So, small thing we do prior to getting into it, we do a quick get to know your guest.
Okay.
Some quick fire questions.
Great.
Very random stuff half the time. So I'll start. What was your favourite TV show as a kid?
A-Team.
And why?
Mr. T. Van. Guns. Problem solving. I don't know, I just loved it, didn't I, as a kid?
And did you want to be Mr. T?
I wanted to be, probably Face, actually. He was, Murdoch was pretty cool, wasn't he? I wanted to be Face.
You want to be Face?
Yeah. He got all the girls, didn't he?
Yeah, you're right, he did get all the girls.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Favourite computer game?
Ooh, as a kid. Raid Over Moscow, Commodore 64.
I've never known that one.
Guys, I mean, you're younger than me. That was a game.
No, but it was a Commodore 64, man.
Commodore 64 game, yeah, Raid Over Moscow, yeah, and it was, me and my mate used to play. It used to take about half hour to upload it. You know, all the noises on the little cassette machine.
Oh, that's one of your tracks.
Yeah, it's one of my tracks, yeah. And, yeah, that was it.
So Commodore 64, man.
Yeah, but I never had one. My best mate had one, Phil, so I used to go around his house and play it, yeah.
They were a big old piece of unit, weren't they? Let's be fair on this.
Yeah, I remember those, yeah.
Fancy dinner guest and why?
Fantasy dinner guest and why? Nelson Mandela. He's just inspirational, isn't he? He's a god, isn't he, really?
Okay, that's a good answer. And then you've got a couple of would you rathers. So would you rather be forced to sing along or dance to every single song you hear?
Dance.
Dance?
Yeah, I can't sing for toffee. Got a few moves though.
Got a few moves?
Can throw a few shapes, mate. I tell you, it has been known.
I've
in my early days, I was a body
You're a body popper, were you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you
back
knew.
in the early 80s, yeah.
Wow.
Mid 80s.
Okay.
Mid 80s, wasn't it really?
Mid 80s. So I was born in 81. If I want to make you feel.
Yeah, now you make me feel old.
Make you feel old. Do you have a guilty pleasure song?
Yeah, probably. I have loads of guilty pleasure songs. Funny enough, we were talking about Elton John earlier on, weren't we? And I love Benny and the Jets, but that's not really a guilty pleasure because that's a good song. But yeah, Benny and the Jets, Elton John. What a song that is! Dun, 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 dun,
Come on, you must have a Cheeky Girls in there somewhere.
No, Cheeky Girls.
Okay, we'll go with that then.
Yeah.
If there was a movie made about yourself, who would play you and why?
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg? Why? Come on, you've got to give us a reason. Why would Whoopi Goldberg play you?
I'm just talking shit. I just tried to think of the most non-white female person that I could think of as Whoopi Goldberg.
You'd be with... Okay, that's fine.
I was just trying to be out there. Who would play me? I don't know. I don't know. Sorry.
That's all right. And a favourite quote?
Favourite quote? Oh yeah, I think it was, again we spoke about earlier, I don't know if it's Beyonce that said it, but someone said something along the lines of, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, and I love that.
It's a great line, right?
It's a great line.
It's just so true. Because we're obviously talking slightly differently to probably some of the other people I've interviewed who've got full businesses and stuff like that, what I really want to get down to is, before Ibiza, before what you do now, which we'll get into a bit later on, what did you do work-wise before Ibiza?
Recruitment for 20 years.
And what was that, your first job?
Wasn't my first job, it was my first proper job. I studied art at college, did a foundation course at St Albans, wanted to get onto a degree course, was a bit lazy. I'd got onto a really good foundation course, but when I got to the foundation course, I enjoyed the first half and I loved it, but I didn't work hard enough at it. Didn't get onto the degree course I wanted, got onto an H&D course, dropped out, dossed about for about a year. My girlfriend got pregnant at the time, had a kid, had to get a real job.
What age was that?
21.
Okay.
When he was born. So, and then, had to get a real job. I saw a telesales job advertised. I did a couple of dodgy telesales jobs. And then with that bit of experience, saw another job advertised in recruitment and walked in and got a job. And that was for one company. I was there for 10 years and then went to Maine for another 10 years.
So before we go on to the recruitment piece, I ask everyone this. What were you like at school?
Daydreamer. Yeah, I'd stare out the window a lot. Wouldn't listen to. I'm very talkative. Used to piss about a lot. But I was quite a good student. I was in all the top groups, and I passed on my O levels. Got a couple of A levels, but I got low grades. But I could have done more. But I was just a bit kind of lazy, really.
And was that kind of motivated around the people hanging around with, or just?
Yeah, a little bit of that. I was easily distracted. But I wasn't a trouble. I wasn't into too much. I was as much trouble as a normal teenager gets into. But I wasn't the out and out bad boy. But I used to. Get in a few.
You weren't the out and out.
Used to get into a few scrapes, yeah.
You was getting a few scrapes over a period of time.
Yeah.
So did you get basically out of school what you wanted, or would you, if you had the opportunity again, work slightly hard? I know it's difficult to say because of what you're doing now, but
out of school, no. I wish I'd have got more out of my time at art college and used that better because I had a golden opportunity there, and I took a graphics course rather than a fine art course, and I wish I'd have done fine art, but. Having said all of that, I don't have any regrets because all roads have led to this, and I'm very happy where I am now. So
yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so what was interesting for me today was to kind of delve into that murky career of recruitment, which is obviously my background and still is currently.
Still is, yeah.
And still very murky, still is. So you said 20 years in recruitment.
Yeah.
That's no short period of time.
No, it's not. Just for two companies as well. Yeah, I started at the bottom as a consultant, and by the time I left, I was a senior team manager. What was it? I can't remember the title now. Senior manager.
Let's call it senior manager.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So why? So you said you did a couple of dodgy telesales jobs. What was it that allowed you or made you fall into recruitment? Let's put it that way.
My partner at the time saw a job advertised in a local paper.
And that was it?
And I had no clue what recruitment even was. I went for the interview. It was a stuffy old office where there was two older guys in there smoking their lungs out, and it was really quiet. It was in 2000. No, it's 2000. It was 1980. When was it? Early 90s, and there had just been a recession on, so there wasn't much work about. So it was pretty quiet at the time. It was just before things started to wrap up. It was engineering.
Okay.
A company called Short Term Engineers.
Yeah, it's still going now.
Is it still going, is it? Yeah.
Short term, yeah.
Yeah, right, okay, so it was, started working with them in one of their little regional offices in Boreham Wood.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And then 10 years there.
10 years there, yeah.
Had a successful period.
Yeah, and then got one of the directors from there left and went to Maine and recruited me, and I followed him.
And was that still the same markets?
Yeah, very similar, yeah. So when I say I ended up working, which is the only part of the industry I did like. I ended up working, doing technical recruitment for London Underground and British Network Rail.
Yeah.
And it was mostly kind of workers, doing up stations and that kind of thing. Yeah.
And then, from that point of view, you suddenly had an epiphany, or you had a moment, or what was it that led you to suddenly Down
Up sticks,
tools.
yeah. A few things. First of all, I'd split up with the mother of my child whilst I was coming towards my end of my time at short term, and then came on holiday to Ibiza with a load of my mates. They were all coming over here. I was with Paul Jackson, who was DJing at Pasha at the time, so we all come over with him. And I wasn't going to go actually. I got a phone call from my mates saying, right, we're in the travel agent, as it was then. We're getting you a ticket. You're coming, because I was reluctant. I didn't want to go. I was heartbroken. I was in bits. We got your ticket. And you're coming to Ibiza. I put the phone down on me. It's like shit. So I had to pay them the money, and off we went. And then we, obviously people that have been here, what it's like. It blows your mind.
Yeah.
Especially if you're into raving and dance music and that kind of thing. And met my wife to be in space.
Wow.
And I proposed to her the year after that. She was from Lincoln. I lived just outside London at the time. So we'd commute for a year, then she moved in with me. And so we'd go to Ibiza every single year on holiday. And every year your heart gets heavier and heavier when you leave. You know what it's like?
Yeah.
We all do. And everybody that lives here has a similar story. And then you just go, why am I leaving? Why don't we just go there? But that wasn't actually the reason. We kind of started to plot, how could we make it work, that we could maybe buy an apartment here, we couldn't figure out how we could do it because we felt a bit trapped, they don't call the rat race or that, they don't call that the thing, the trappings of life for nothing. You get trapped by your mortgage, you think if I leave my job, I'll lose my house, we won't be able to feed, we'll die, the goldfish will die, everything will just go
life
to shit.
Will stop.
Yeah, it does, and you kind of conditioned to think that, and of course it's not the truth. So work at the time was getting heavy. I think I was close to a breakdown, if I'm honest.
Okay.
Yeah, it was getting tough. That kind of senior mid-management role, you get it from every angle. And I was getting particularly pushed. I was probably pushed out by my manager a bit.
Okay.
And at the time I kind of felt bad about it, but it was the best thing he ever did. So we were on holiday here in 2010, in September. And I woke up in a cold sweat on day 2 or 3, and I just said to Mandy, my wife, I said, "That's it, I'm done. I can't do that job anymore. I'm quitting when I go back." And she was like, "Whoa, okay, hang on." And we'd had money, but we'd put it all back into the house, and I had a new kitchen, and just had the house.
As you said, the trappings.
Yeah, the trappings, had the house looking nice. So there wasn't much left in the bank. So, but I knew I couldn't work anymore. I was close to a breakdown. I felt like it was doing me. It was getting the better of me. So.
So would you say that was purely down to work and outside pressures as well, or what was it? It's generally there's normally a source of the final anguish. Was it saying that completely tipped it?
Yeah, do you know what? It's a culmination of things. We were massively busy. My manager at the time seemed to have it in his head that he could just make us do infinite more work than we were doing before with less people.
Okay.
And that just took its toll.
And no change of processes, no updates of process, nothing to make it easier on you. It was just pushed downwards.
It was just do more. And,
Okay.
and we were busy. We were a busy department, and we were doing more. And it was just it was killing me.
It just took you to the edge.
Yeah.
So cold sweats, Ibiza.
Cold sweats. I was in Ibiza.
Let's
said
do
to
it.
Mandy, right, I can't go back to work. What should we do? I need to take some time out or whatever. And we had not much money in the bank. And she said, well, I said to her, should we go travelling for a year or something? And she went, why don't we come and do a season here? See how that works out.
It's normally the other way round, where it's you pushing the subject, going right. Let's go to Ibiza.
Well, I mean, it turns out when she kind of said that we'd always dreamed of getting here somehow, but we didn't spoke too seriously about it. But then it was just like, oh, right, this is a time that it just felt right.
Yeah.
I needed to get out of that. I needed a change, and we just decided, we figured out that we could rent a house out in Boreham Wood, and that would pay for that, and that's the biggest thing. And then we'd have enough money to pay for our rent here for a season, and we could, we'll find a way. We'll find a way.
And that's got you to that stage.
And that got us to that stage. So I went back into work, didn't quit straight away. My boss at the time pulled me to one side and said, "You're not right. What's wrong with you?" And I was just like, he said, "Are you thinking about leaving?" And I just went like, "Yes, I am." And I just felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I'm like, "Yes, I'm leaving." He said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, we're going to go and see if we can work in Ibiza for a year."
But it's interesting though, your demeanour as soon as you were back told them everything they needed to know.
Yeah. They knew I wasn't interested anymore. Yeah, they figured it out. They felt the vibe off me.
So they take that well, or they?
Yeah, they were great, and I said that I don't want to leave straight away because I could do with a few months' wages. So they agreed to let me go in January, the following January. That was September. So it came out in November, and then I agreed to stay to the end of January. And
so it's 2011.
It was the easiest couple of months I've ever done in my life because the pressure was off. And
well, I think you find a lot of people obviously coming up to Christmas would like to have those kind of easy months, because then you can at least go and say goodbye to people properly. Yeah. Before heading off to, so you moved to Ibiza in the January. Yeah, and so
I bought a van, a white Vito van.
So what was those initial thoughts when you came here? What was it? Did you have a structure or a plan?
No, we had a kind of very, very loose plan, and so the idea was we were going to. Mandy took a sabbatical from work. Her company, she worked for H&M, and she was delivering training around the world. She had a quite good job. And obviously I was in recruitment early well. So she took a sabbatical 6 months and I just quit my job. And we had 3 months before we left. And so with some money I bought a white Vito Mercedes van, because in my mind, if I bought a van, I could earn with it. I could find a way, I had this crazy notion that I could earn with it. And one of the things I started doing for the 3 months before I moved to Ibiza was buying old bits of furniture. Because I was creative and I was a frustrated creative. The whole time I was in recruitment, I never loved it. I wanted to do something creative. Didn't know how to make the change. Trappings, money, all the rest of it. So in that 3 months, I started buying old furniture and painting it mad colours and putting it on the eBay and that kind of stuff, and selling not for lots of money, but I was getting satisfaction out of it. Advertised as a man with a van, and I was just moving people's tellies around and sofas, anything. I didn't care. I loved it. Imagine you go from like a senior high-powered management job to just like driving around, and I was loving life.
But smiling and enjoying what you're doing.
Smiling, enjoying it, and none of the pressure, and knowing that I'm going to go to Ibiza and get there and find a way, And then when we arrived, so eventually we packed all our house up into the loft, rented it out for 6 months, and set off in our van.
So you drove the van over here?
Drove the van over, brought enough stuff to, the sort of things we thought we'd need, included a little stack of records like that.
Okay. What was the records?
Mostly electro, hip hop, jazz funk, soul, rare groove, that kind of stuff. Not house.
No.
And I DJ'd for fun as a hobby for years, like since the 90s. Played in a few bars, and I think I played in the Aquarium once. Did one club night in my life, but apart from that, it wasn't. Didn't really think I'd.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't going to be a job for me. Just something I did for fun. So I brought a little stack of records with me just in case. Brought the van over. We knew that for the first couple of weeks we just kind of took it easy, went to loads of parties, and just kind of
get out your system.
Got out your system a little bit, enjoyed ourselves. And let's try and find work now. And I couldn't find any work. It wasn't coming easily. I'd go around. The only people you think when you come on holiday here and you come regularly, we know loads of people, but they're restaurateurs, and you go to them and you go, I'm here now, and they're like, great. Do you still want to buy some food off me? And and you're not worth as much money to them because now you're a local, so you spend less, and it's a weird kind of dynamic. So you literally have to start from the beginning. And I was told actually by one of the restaurateurs, an Italian guy. Gualtiero, who runs Il Pirata in Ibiza town.
Still there, is it?
Still there, and he's still there too. And he said to me, gave me the best piece of advice. He said, when you come to Ibiza, he said, you're no one. You have to start from scratch. You have to start from the bottom and work your way up. And honestly, I've seen people come and go that don't have that attitude. And we did. We would have done anything to stay. It was our dream to be here. And we'd let go of our previous lives completely. We rented really small and modestly. Mm-hmm. The place. I went from having a 3-bedroom house in just outside North West London with an Arg. I used to cook. I used to love cooking. And we rented a tiny little place in Figueres, with a tiny little stove on it. It didn't even have an oven. It was like, but we didn't care. We were just me and her together. We're going to make this work somehow. And at that point, we were only here for 6 months. Couldn't find any work with a van, wasn't quite happening. And then I had my first kind of hippie moment, if you like, my first universe moment where you speak to somebody or something. And I went to Esquivel's, and I looked out across the, it's my favourite view.
Can you explain where that is and what it is?
So Esquivel's is southwest of Ibiza. It's one of the most stunning, beautiful views on the island. There's a little church there. It looks out, it's quite high up, and it's just beautiful. You need to go and have a look at it. And I sat on the because that's where we used to go and like go, how can we get here? How can we? So one day she got a job helping out some friends, and all they wanted was to hold one of these things up for a bikini shoot, and
Okay.
she got a free bikini out of it for helping out.
Oh, so it's the sun shields.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you get here, you
Reflector
just
shields,
try and make contacts. I do anything to just get a job. I don't know quite what I want to do yet, but you just, and we had time. We had about 4 or 5 weeks to find our feet. So she did that, and it was getting a little bit tight for me. It was like my 3rd or 4th week. I was thinking, I still haven't got a job yet.
And you haven't got a bikini either.
I haven't got a bikini. Definitely one. Well, I might have a bikini. I've got one on now, actually.
Well, it's very nice.
And where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so I sat on the edge of the cliff there, looked out, and sort of spoke to like Tanit, who's the god of Ibiza, or whoever it was, and I was just like, right, you got me here now. What do you want? What am I supposed to do? Because I felt like we'd been pulled here. And the next day, I got a phone call from someone saying, "Oh, I heard you know how to set up DJ equipment. Can you come and help me, like, be a bit of a roadie and help, set stuff up?" So for the next 2 years, I worked with my van with this guy, moving sound systems around and taking speakers around, putting CDJs into DC-10 sometimes, or we'd do a wedding, or like some kids would hire a villa, we'd hire them equipment.
So CDJs are the digital DJing equipment that you'll see in most clubs and most bars around the way. Yeah. Obviously, I'll talk technical to you. But obviously, not everyone is going to listen to this will know what the hell we're talking about. So it's a small explanation. So your van became then pretty much your life again as you expected it to.
Yeah, I used the van, and it became very, very useful to me.
So that then allowed you obviously to get into places that you were not even close to.
Yeah, I'd be like I remember being in the DJ booth at the DC-10 closing party at the end of the season, and I used to look up at these people that would be in there. Who are these people in the DJ booth?
These gods.
Yeah, like, and then when the DJs, they're in there, all these like cool looking people. You look at them thinking, oh, I want to be you are, And I was in there, like, helping them set the stuff up. I remember meeting Seth Troxer for the first time and not knowing, who he was and stuff like this. Great.
But that's quite a nice thing, I feel, is when you're there without the kind of, oh, it's this person or it's that person, and then it's instead of it being what's the best way of putting it, a pleasure to be around it, you feel like you're walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
So instead of it, you just get on with your job.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
But you just talk to people as they are there, rather than, oh, you're such and such, or you're such and such. It makes it a lot more relaxed. Is that the best way of putting it?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's 2 years.
2 years of doing that.
So just give some context. How many years have you been here now?
We're in our 13th year now.
So that was 2011, 12? 11
was the first year we came, yeah. So and in the first 6 months, we just did 6 months, and then went back to a house in Boreham Wood, and then we rented it out again for another 6. So I went back for 6 months. I just used my van for 6 months. Mainly went back to a job. We decided we were going to come back, but this time she had to quit her job because she couldn't keep taking 6 months sabbaticals. So she gave up her job. We came back after. I was a man with a van doing the furniture again for 6 months, loving life. Helped my friends deliver Christmas trees, did all sorts of stuff. But it wasn't recruitment, knowing that I was coming back to Ibiza. And when we came back the second time, in our minds, we thought we were going to be able to keep going back for 6 months. It was hard work, putting the house up, getting it back down again. And when we got to Ibiza the second time, the place we were going to stay in was no longer available. Okay. We found out about a week before we were leaving. Shit. So some friends of ours let us stay with them, some Spanish friends of ours. So we stayed.
So you had some friends now. That's a positive, right?
But yeah. By that time, we'd made loads of friends and acquaintances and stuff. So we stayed with some Spanish guys who owned the bar down the road from us for a couple of days. Found somewhere, but everywhere we were looking for could only offer us a year's contract.
Okay.
Not 6 months.
And you wanted.
So we were just like, all right, let's do that then.
Now or never.
Let's do that. And then called up the people that were in our house. Look, do you want to stay longer? They said, yep. They rented it out for another 7 years or so, or 5 years or so, whatever it was. 5 years it was. And we stayed.
So it's 2 years in.
Yeah. The summers were mad busy. The first winter we had here, when we stayed, our first winter was 2012, going into 2013, and that was just magical. I loved it. Everybody told us how good the winters were. It's quiet, there's no one around, the sun still shines most days. It's colder, but it's just amazing.
It's just amazing.
And that's where you kind of make your real contacts, I think.
Okay.
If you really want to be here and really work, I found that people, because it's said that in Ibiza, if you want to come and make it work, it takes a minimum of 3 years to really gain everyone's trust and get into the groove of it. And that's about right. And if you're here in the winters as well, it works even better.
Right.
Because people see you around, they trust you, and
well, it's because you're not just here for the summer season and running off again.
Yeah, exactly.
When it's not as heating. I guess as it's quieter, people have more time to sit down, have a conversation,
Yeah.
have a coffee.
Exactly that.
Let's get to know you.
Exactly.
What happens there?
You make your contacts and all that kind of stuff.
So So just on that period, so that 3 years,
Yeah.
were you technically still a recruiter in your head because you're having to use all the skills, the knowledge?
So here's the thing, I kind of thought this question might come up. Like I said, I did 20 years of recruitment. I never really liked it. I always felt like a square peg in a round hole because I felt like I was a creative, and I'd be in these rooms of engineers looking at them thinking, I've got nothing in common with any of you lot. But I like the money, I like the security, and all that. But yes, in answer to your question, when I did come here, what I did have on my side was 20 years of professionalism, being on time, being able to sell, being able to get paid.
Yeah.
You know, all those skills.
The pay part's always fun.
All of that stuff, yeah. You don't. You just know how to chase money. You know how to get. You know what it's like.
So is it? So
you could price things up. You've just you just got your wits about.
And not being someone who's obviously lived abroad, is it a different culture and environment of getting paid? Let's put it that way. Is it? Did you have much chasing?
Yeah, you did. And
there's a smile on your face while you're saying that.
Well, Ibiza's considered the pirate island of Spain, really. Probably it's kind of getting less and less like that. Everything was cash, you know, you're chasing cash all the time, and it's less so now. Everyone's got the invoice now, it's all kind of above board, but it certainly wasn't even like 10 years ago when we first came here 12 years ago.
So what was your big break then? Obviously, let's fast forward a little bit.
So the DJing and the art?
Well, let's go through what you are to get to this present time. So as I believe it in my head, tell me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
So before the island, you were none of these things.
Yeah.
So you're a DJ, an artist, poet?
No.
Okay, start again. Come at it. DJ, artist, producer.
Yeah, I dabble in production, yeah.
And my most favourite one, a vegan.
Yeah, I'm a vegan too, yeah.
And a vegan as well.
And teetotal.
Yeah. Have I missed anything?
Cheers.
As he drinks back a glass of vodka.
Neat water, yeah.
So have I missed anything from that journey?
No, those things all happened once I got here. Yeah.
So which one happened first? The DJing, the artist, the producing, or the vegan part, or the teetotaling?
Okay. Well, the DJing and the art were both. You know, I'd studied art and I kind of did bits and pieces throughout my life, but nothing seriously. And I had friends that did all end up as graphic designers. A big swathe of my friends are graphic designers. And artists and whatever, and a couple of DJs. I DJed for fun kind of since the early 90s. So, but professionally here, in 2012, at the end of that year, a friend of mine, and I decided I was going to get some T-shirts made with some art. I just, because the shop that Mandy was working in, where she still works, my wife, we're going to Bali to get T-shirts produced, and I thought, I'll make some designs. I did some skulls. I did some skull art because that was quite trendy at the time.
Yeah.
And we got some T-shirts made, and we thought, let's do a little label for it. And Mandy came up with the name Chapter, and that was the idea for the label. And that was because it was a new chapter in our lives.
Oh, okay.
And we're now doing this, you know. So that new chapter in our lives was going to design some T-shirts.
It's a good name, to be fair.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she's clever like that. And so that's where the name Chapter came from. And at the same time I started to do these designs, the T-shirts were getting made, and a friend of mine saw one of the designs and said, "That's great, can you blow it up and put it on my wall, like my first commissioned art piece?"
Wow.
And I went to do it, and the drawing when I blew it up looked terrible because it was a small drawing.
Pixelated,
So I then got into computer art quite quickly. Someone showed me said you need to get some computer graphics, and when you blow it up it stays the same.
Yeah.
So I learnt that quite quickly. This is all in 2012, going into 2013. And then where was I going with this? So that was my first. That was me kind of starting art.
That was your art part.
That winter,
that's one tick.
Yeah, I had. When I was doing the sound systems, I did a couple of weddings as a DJ, and I played in a couple of bars. I played at Sands occasionally for a hamburger. Sometimes they give me €50 if I was lucky, and I played at one or two other little places. But again, it was just for fun. I had no intention.
So was the opportunity, the wedding, was that due to being asked to play, or someone dropped out, or how that kind of goes? There's generally a story to why you suddenly got put behind the decks.
Yeah, so the guy I was working with, I'd started to DJ at my local bar, and the guy I was working with, I invited him along one night, and he said, "Oh, you DJ? Why don't we put you forward for one of the weddings that we're doing the sound systems for? So we can lump it all in as one kind of package." we'll rent you a sound system, lighting, and all the rest of it. Oh, and we'll throw a DJ in, and that's kind of how it started. So I did a couple of those. I didn't enjoy it, but it was good fun.
So was the music wedding? There was nothing obviously of your current genres or your loves.
It was pop and it was dross.
So the Cheeky Girls was in there somewhere.
It might have been, yeah. It might have been. Yeah.
So you should have a big guilty pleasure somewhere in the music you were playing at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So you obviously carried on to that. That allowed you opportunities.
But my break came, because there's a break. My break came, I was doing a friend's birthday party, who I just played for actually at Casher this weekend. A guy called Hayden, and Vaughan was there. Vaughan used to run the funky room at Pasha,
Right.
also known as El Cielo in Spanish, which means heaven. So he used to run that, and he saw me playing at Hayden's birthday party. It was Hayden and Gary, another friend of mine. They were having a joint birthday party in a villa, and I was playing just funk and disco and soul. And he said, yes, good. Do you want to come and play in the funky room at Pasha? Occasionally in cover if Pippi or Willie Graff can't play. And I'm like, yeah, all right, that'd be nice. You know, that was in, I think, 13. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. So I went and did that, the following May. And at the same time, another guy called Bob Masters saw me playing up at a place called Hidden in the north of the island. And he said, oh, do you want to come and play at my soul event? Okay, so at that point, I'm like, actually, it's pulling me in now.
So that's your 3-year piece you were talking about as well?
Yeah, kind of, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was coming, it was the beginning of the third year kind of thing. So I was like, yeah, we should, perhaps I'll have a look at this DJ and like, there maybe there's something in it.
So were you still selling your art at that time?
So at that point, I just started making t-shirts, just started doing commissions, and so I worked for 2 years with the guy with the sound systems. The third year, after we went our separate ways, I did it on my own with a friend. We bought a system, and we did it for a year. But by the end of that year, I knew that it wasn't for me. I knew I wanted to pursue, at that point, being a DJ and an artist, because that winter, it came. You know, I did the thing. I got a commission for art. Then someone else wanted another commission. So I thought, well, this is great. I'll make more art.
So it allows you to push towards your passion.
Yes, exactly. So then I was thinking, right, these are the things I love, are art and music. Well, maybe I can make some money out of it. Again, we were still renting really modestly.
Yeah.
Our house in England was being paid for, so we didn't have to come up with a lot of money. Do you know what I mean, to pay our rent? And this was before the rents are what they are now. It was like €700 or something a month we had to pay, and that's with all your bills. So that's all we had to find, you know. So where was I going with this? So art and music pulled me in. Did the first gig at Pasha, hated it. Funky room, yeah. I was ill prepared because I wasn't a professional DJ. I now know, after years of doing it professionally, what the difference is between doing it professionally and
A hobby.
As a hobby. There is a massive difference. It's an art, it's a skill, and I play with some of the best. I play with some of my favourite DJs in the world. The guys I play in Melbourne with, who have all been professional DJs all of their careers.
Okay.
For me, it came later, and I've learnt so much off of those guys.
So the Melbourne piece came how much further in? So you got year 4. You're kind of now playing Pasha. You're doing your artwork.
Occasionally play at Pasha, doing artwork, selling art prints, and that was kind of still my biggest gig as Scott Gray. And then in 2014, November, I was at a function at a wine shop called Vino & Co. And they had they used to do pop-ups, so they'd have invite chefs in to do chef nights, and they'd cook for you and stuff. And they sit down meals in this beautiful wine shop and taste really good wine and all the rest of it. Before I was vegan, before I was teetotal.
Not to that stage yet.
Yeah, and I'd already met Ben Santiago, Ben Santiago of Lovely Laura fame.
Yeah.
And they were starting to do well. I'd not met Paul Reynolds, but I'd met his mum and dad at the wine shop a few times.
Obviously.
So I got to know. I was mates with Paul Reynolds' mum and dad before I was mates with him. And then that night, all 3 of us were there, and because we were a DJ, we kind of gravitated towards each other. Sat on the end of a table, had a few beers, and I'd that year just been asked to play Pasha on New Year's Eve.
Nice.
So it was my first kind of real kind of
step up event.
Felt like a profile booking, my first kind of profile booking. Funky room, but nonetheless. And I kind of gave me the balls to say to them, I'm playing at Pasha. At that time, Paul was playing in Ushuaia. He was on the residence at Ushuaia. So I said, I've got this really good idea. Why don't we get together? After the conversation, let's get together next week. Have a meeting on Tuesday. And they were both like, yeah, okay. So the next morning, I woke up with a hangover. I said to Mandy, I've got a meeting with Paul Reynolds and Ben Santiago, and I haven't got a fucking clue what I'm going to tell them. I don't know what this great idea is I had. Didn't have an idea.
So did the recruiter kick in at that point?
Yeah, I was blagging it at that point.
Yes.
Overselling.
Overselling, but delivering on this one.
But delivering. And then, then you have to figure it out, don't you?
That's exciting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, ever since I came here, you're kind of living on your wits and trying to sort of duck and dive, which I think recruitment definitely teaches you that.
It does.
It really does.
And hitting your head against a brick wall.
Yeah, against a brick wall, and just keep going and that sort of stuff. So then I figured out, within about 10, 15 minutes, I spoke to Manny. Glitterbox had just started that year, and I'd been to it, and it was in boom at the time.
Okay.
Before it went to space, and before it went to higher.
So Glitterbox, people don't know, is obviously a side brand of Defective Records, which obviously at the time was Simon Dunmore.
Yes.
And two was obviously retired last year, or just retiring. I was in a farewell tour, isn't it?
He sold the company late last year, early this year. I can't remember. Late last year, I think it was.
So that's the brand. It was a side brand of obviously.
And it ended up really elevating Defected, to be honest with you.
100%, and that's the more the disco.
Yeah. So what they caught onto it, there was at that point, up until that point, it had gone very, very tech over here, tech house and techno, and it was getting harder and harder and darker, and it needed some light and shade, and so there was a feeling that soulful stuff that we kind of listened to back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a desire for it again, and disco kind of started creeping back in again, and the disco kind of or the filtered house you used to get, the French stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of sound started coming back in again.
Bob Sinclair, Shapeshifters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then people then started getting, I remember people like David Morales couldn't get gigs because their music had gone because it just got so techy. Well, all of a sudden, people started to play those old records again, and then started mixing it with funk and soul and disco. So they were doing that, and it was slightly commercially side. But I went along and saw Dimitri from Paris and was like, this is great. I really like what they're doing, but I think I'd like to do something similar to that, but a bit more underground. Okay. And that's kind of always been the Melon Bomb way, I suppose. That's certainly how we started.
So the meeting happened.
We had a meeting, and the first meeting was in November, and we agreed to.
Was that back at the wine bar?
No, at Paul's house actually. We agreed we'd meet again after Christmas. We'd get Christmas out of the way. We'll get back together, and in the meantime, I'd played at Pike's at a friend's wedding in October, at the beginning of October. Sonny, from Pike's, saw me play, said, "Oh, you're great. You should come and play at our Halloween party." Played at the Halloween party, got in with Pike's, if you like.
So the answer is, did Sonny dress you up at the time, as he famously does? Or was that part of the agreement?
I never got dressed up by Sonny, actually.
Did you not?
No, I always avoided that one. Somehow. Okay. Don't know how.
So Halloween.
He used to like going after butch, like big boys, you know what I mean, and like the ones that you'd least expect to be dressed up. He'd like to turn them around.
So a bit like your friend Daryl.
Like my friend Daryl, yeah. Alpha males he used to like.
I think Daryl liked that actually. I think he's been called Alpha male before. That was Halloween.
So yes, I'm going all over the place here. Sorry.
Don't worry, this is but only a good outside beefer. If it was a straight line, everyone would be here doing it.
Yeah, true. You can edit all this out, by the way. When I went to the second meeting, before the second meeting that had happened, I'd spoken to Pike, said, and my friends of mine were doing nights there. You could do a night there, and they were open in the winter then as well, and anyone could do a night there. And I just said to them, "Oh, you've seen me play. Can I do a night?" And they went, "Yeah." So they gave us a date. We had a date in, I think it was the end of February, and I went to the meeting with Ben and Paul. Juan joined us a few months later, and that winter I'd designed some art prints, 3 of them, and the one of the Melon Bomb head logo. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I've seen it, yeah.
That one didn't sell. I think I sold one of them, and I was gutted. It was my favourite piece, so I took it along to the meeting and said, "Look, should we use this for our image? I've got a night of Pikes. We haven't got a name. What about this?" And it was like Melon Head, Melon Bomb, Melon Bomb, and that's where we got the name. So we went to Pikes. We had a party there at the end of February. Paul couldn't play because he had a gig elsewhere off the island. So me and Ben did it, but we were still going to be a threesome at the point. Yeah. And we got Paulette. She came and played for us.
Okay.
And we played at Pikes. About 40 people turned up, and by about 2:30, 3 o'clock, they all got home. It was a pretty quiet night. We were like, ugh. Okay. I don't think Pikes will ask us back, but they did. And when they asked us back for a following month, which I was really surprised about, they said, "No, we'll give you another go. I reckon you can do it." They liked our music, which was more kind of funky and soulful then. And it was Nick Clayton, who's a friend of ours. It was his 60th birthday. He's quite a character on the island. And he just invited everybody. So everybody came to the next Melon Bomb because of his party, really.
Yeah, okay.
So he brought a crowd, and the Pikes were like, "Oh, these guys are good. They can bring a crowd."
And come again.
so they get us. They booked us again for the April. And by that point, all the guys that did come liked it.
So it was year 5 roughly at that point.
This was 2015, so year 4.
Year 4. So from your opening statement of no one would even talk to you, look at you, give you opportunities,
Yeah.
you hit your 3-year point, as they said.
Yeah.
You then started doing something you really loved, which was the art,
Yeah.
getting into the creative side.
Yeah.
The piece that no one loved turned into being your actual headline image
Yeah.
and the name for your DJ
Of
collective.
our brand, yeah. Yeah, I know, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've said to you before when we spoke is that I believe heavily in fate, and things are meant to happen for a reason. And I think, as you're saying, and you're probably sitting there going, I'm rambling on a bit, but it all adds to the story. And as you say, if you didn't take the opportunities or put yourself in those positions and gave yourself that fighting chance,
Yeah.
you probably would have potential. Was there any points where you thought, even up to like year 3, I want to go home?
Never.
Never.
The minute we landed here, apart from the first few weeks, it was a bit hairy. The minute I got into a groove, we both knew that we wanted to come here, certainly every summer to start with. Then, once we decided we were going to stay, we had very little intention. We had very little intention about going back. The minute we got here, we were just like, "No, this is the life. Sun shines every day. We were working hard, but we have the winters off. No,
Okay.
there was never any looking back. Never.
So as you already said, the words light and shade. We've done a lot of the light.
Yeah.
Obviously, let's go on to a bit more of the shade stuff, which is the other 2 parts we haven't talked about really.
Okay.
Which is obviously the removing the drinking, and obviously the vegan side, which obviously was that's a complete stop. In other words,
Yeah.
let's be honest here. So, as you said, the island's known for its hedonism, and
Yeah.
its headlistic. Is that right? Is that
Yeah,
right?
it is, yeah.
Ways of life.
Yeah.
So I take it for a period of time you lived the IB for life whilst doing everything else.
Yeah.
Is that maybe a...
Yeah, we used to get on it. Yeah. Yeah, we'd get on it with drink and take drugs and party hard like a lot of people did. The first years, especially, we just totally immersed ourselves and just loved it. We were, a bit younger then, and our bodies could take it more. And the second year, we realised that we wanted to stay in the winter, so we'd need to hold back a bit because we needed to save some money in order to stay in the winter because there was no money, which was great. No money coming in, which is great. I think we survived on about $6,000 or something. We just honestly, we did, and it was brilliant. And we just, I remember buying cheap clothes, just eating. It was just great. It was quite romantic as well. It was a different world.
The basics.
Yeah, we just stripped back, and it was lovely. And luckily, with the success came a bit more money and a bit more kind of, extra spending, and so we could start to do the things we wanted to do.
So what was the kind of... Was there a tipping point? Where was there a moment you kind of woke up and went, enough's enough?
Right, with the veganism came first. That came.
Okay, that came first.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, way before. We've been vegan over 7 years now. I went back at Christmas, and a mate of mine, one of my schoolmates, because I always see them when we used to go back, Mark Bundy. I got into conspiracy theories a bit back then. Luckily, I'm not into all that stuff now, but just for about half a year, I kind of started to believe stuff that was going out. And he said, "Oh, you've got to see this thing. It's called Cowspiracy. It's about how the meat industry is like completely lying to us about the benefits of meat and dairy and all the rest of it." So I watched it, and he said it might turn you vegan. Now my wife is a massive. She's really into protecting the planet. She's an environmentalist, and at the end of this film, and it's an incredible film, and it is true, by the way. It isn't a conspiracy. It's incredible. If you ever want to expose yourself,
So on Netflix.
it might be on Netflix. And there was a couple of films. Another film called Forks Over Knives. But at the end of the film, this guy who's an ex-dairy farmer, Texan guy, big sort of like brash kind of Texan, gave it all up, become vegan, still looks like and talks like a big brash Texan, looks down the camera and says, "And if you're an environmentalist, you've got to give up meat and become a vegan." And my wife was like, "He's talking to me." And I was like, wow. And that didn't sway me straight away. And then a couple of weeks after, we watched another film called Forks Over Knives, which is about the health benefits. And it's about how it can reverse type 2 diabetes, reverse it, not just prevent it. It can reverse heart disease, all the plaque that builds up in your... I'm going on about it, I'm fucking rambling. All the plaque that builds up in your arteries from eating meat and dairy and eggs, you can literally dissolve it by not eating that stuff anymore.
Okay.
And I come from a family of people with heart attacks.
Okay.
My dad's got angina, my mum's got high blood pressure, my family, all of them died of heart attacks on my mum's side.
Wow.
My dad was a doctor, so I don't know too much about his side, but my mum's side all died of heart attacks. And I'm like, wow, perhaps I'll give it a go. So we just tried it for a bit and never looked back.
Deploy Recruitment Group provides fast and reliable recruitment across the UK and overseas. We source, screen and deliver quality skilled individuals to meet your business requirements. Using our extensive database, market knowledge, network and latest software, we provide access to specialised talent and address your industry's core challenges. Plan, supply and deliver safely. For more information, please visit our website, deployrecruit.com.
But I guess you're on the island that, I think you used the words earlier on, hippie.
Yeah.
So the island has very much a place with the earth. Let's be fair on that.
Yeah, but there's not too many
magical side
vegans.
of it.
There's not as many vegans here as you'd think.
Okay.
Even now, yeah. I mean,
Really?
they still like their meat. Even the hippies.
But okay. Oh,
Yeah. But a lot of them, not all of them, but there are some great vegetarian places. But yeah, there aren't that many still. But it's actually better in the UK.
Okay, I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, it's easier to be a vegan in the UK than it is here.
I would have said, I'd say from an outside-in point of view, not being a vegan, I would have thought here was an easier sell than...
No, and the Spanish airports are a nightmare. Yeah, honestly. But the British airports are great. I mean, every chain in the UK has a pretty decent vegan section.
And they've gone for it.
All of them. Honestly, the UK lead the way in that, actually.
So
believe it or not.
So that's obviously one difficulty. You've changed to being a vegan, and then obviously the harder one is the drinking.
The booze,
I'm guessing.
yeah. So, I was never a big sniffer, so that kind of stopped years ago. Occasionally I had a little line here and there, but the booze, I was just before we moved here, the guy that come to rent a house out warned us. He said, my dad lives in Mallorca. He said to me, be careful, you'll drink every day. And at that point I was just a weekend drinker, and I was like, I won't. And he was right. Every single day you drink, because in the summer everybody's here on holiday to come and see it, and people always come to Ibiza, mate. Every week I've got 2 or 3 people coming over to see it, and you know it's great. I love it. Go and see them, meet them, have a lunch, have a big drink. Then the sun shines every day. Oh, we'll have a glass of rosé. Oh, we'll have a bottle of rosé. Bring the bottle. We'll have another. Canyas are cheaper than the small beers. Cheaper than fizzy water sometimes.
Yes, correct, yeah.
So you knock those back, and before you know it, you're drinking every single day, and occasionally driving. Because the travels, the what do you call it? The infrastructure here is not very good. The cabs are really expensive. There's a couple of buses. There's no trains or tubes. So a lot of people drink drive here, and I was.
Is that quite a big culture here?
Yeah, I think it is, and I was guilty of it myself, and it just didn't sit right. And then this was nearly 4 years ago. I started to have August off. I'd have a dry August, right? Because for me it was the easiest time. Everyone says that's crazy, it's the busiest time, but it was a time of year where the island's full, it's packed, everybody's here, it's too hot, it gets on top of everybody that lives here in August. It's a weird time. Everybody here is like, can't wait to get to September, and it's that weird month where it's just crazy.
It's chaos, yeah.
So to not drink then, I used to find quite easy, because I didn't want to go out much. I could stay away from it all, and come September when the closing party was, I'll be fresh and ready to go and start drinking again. So I take my month off every year, and then coming up to that particular year, 4 years ago, this thing kept popping up on my Facebook page. 1 year no beer. Have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen it.
And it's a guy that makes money out of helping people,
coaching through
not drinking, right? And I thought, well, I don't need a coach. 1 year no beer. I have a month off. Maybe I'll do it. Well, I wasn't going to do a year at first. I was going to do 3 months. And also, I remember saying to Mandy, I'm really looking forward to my month off. And then you listen to yourself, I'm looking forward to not drinking. Well, if I'm looking forward to it that much, why am I doing it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And so I got to my month, and the last drink was actually at Mandy's uncle's funeral, and that was on the 2nd of August. And I drank a load of Guinness that day. That was the last drink I had. Decided I was going to take 3 months off. That went to 6 months. I was getting close to my year, and when it was nearly a year, in my mind, I was going back to drinking. I was gonna start again. I was gonna have a little glass of wine and see how I felt. Okay. And I bumped into a friend of mine who'd stopped around the same time as me. And we compared notes a couple of times through the year. And I saw him in the street, and I said, how you doing, JP? You're going to drink again next week? And he went, no, I'm done.
Wow.
I was like, oh. And I don't know if it was a competitive streak.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, stubbornness, call it what you want. I was like, he's done. Fuck, he's done. I'm done. And so I never went back.
And that was it?
And that was it. Yeah, and I am done. I don't think I'll drink again. I'm all right. I don't need it. It doesn't serve me anymore.
Do you drink any non-alcoholic stuff?
Yeah, I drink non-alcoholic beers occasionally non-alcoholic wines. You can't drink as much of them as you can beer. I do struggle sometimes when I see a nice wine on the table or a decent tequila, because I was a foodie and and I love good food and love good
and
drinks.
Matching it all up.
Yeah, matching it all up. I used to love all that stuff. The way I do it is if there's a really nice wine, because I'm not an alcoholic, I'll sip it like on my tongue, not even a sip, less than a sip.
Okay.
And I'll just taste it and I go, that's really nice, and then put it back, and that's all I need.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic.
It is, but I think an alcoholic couldn't do that. I don't know. Again, there's different levels, I suppose. But I would imagine that they wouldn't be encouraged by AA.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
I think from having conversations with other people is that obviously in recruitment, as you're fully aware, the culture's very work hard, play hard. And I guess in
entertainment, taking out clients, massive part of the job.
Yeah.
And if you don't drink, I imagine that would be really tough.
Yeah, I think I do know a few people now who obviously are removing it from their worlds. I think not by choice, but by probably the end of the addiction, or has got help. And I think, as someone described to me on another conversation, which was the problem with addiction in all levels is that you hit a high, and you're always then trying to match it or beat it.
Yeah.
And the problem with that then is, as someone said, it's a circle. It's insanity, basically. You keep doing the same thing, and it keeps kicking back, and keeps happening.
Yeah.
So if you were to be in...
like an abusive relationship, isn't it?
Right. So sitting in the world's biggest party island and not drinking must be quite strange too.
It has its challenges, yeah.
And strange, and obviously, but how did your peers take it at the time? Because obviously you get invited out, and the first few periods, was that difficult, or did they accept it and just got on with it?
Yeah. I used to not trust people who didn't drink. Do you know what I mean? I used to have this weird thing where if I was out with everybody and one of them weren't drinking, you think, not trust them, but you wouldn't feel as... that's the wrong word.
No, you're not the first person to say it. I've heard that before. I
think that's too strong a term. Not want to engage in their company because they're not on the same buzz as you. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Because you only get drunk, you're all on the same buzz. And weirdly, I haven't felt that too much from other people. I would find it struggle. I'd find a struggle when I used to drink with someone in the group that wasn't drinking. But oddly, I haven't felt that as much from them as I... does that make sense? The other way around.
Yeah.
I didn't see it as much the other way around. And luckily, I've got really, really good friends and really good people around me that have been really, really supportive, actually.
It could be the other reason that because you're not drinking, you turn into the person who can drive everywhere.
That too. Yeah, exactly that. I get people to take advantage of that. But no, it's... yeah, I don't stay as late at parties. I go home earlier. I don't have hangovers though. My days are so much longer the next day, and my weeks are longer because my friends will be feeling shit for a couple of days, can't do much.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm ready for action.
So from a personal point of view, I think I've mentioned before, I've cut down to 36 days a year only of drinking.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel I was ready to completely stop, because I still enjoy going out for a drink with my friends once in a while.
You're not drinking every day, mate, and that's what I was doing. So
yeah. But I think from being in the industry of recruitment, as you say, it's part of the culture and it's expected of you.
Yeah.
People have known me for a very long time, probably like yourself in your industry, and obviously people we know as well. And as you said it's an interesting. You said it's the trust thing. People don't trust, people don't drink, but then people also then begin to feel isolated if they're not drinking, and they feel like they have to just to be part of the group.
Yeah.
And personally,
I know that feeling.
And personally, I don't know if you found it yourself. I quit drinking for 6 months solid, and I don't know if you found it yourself. It wasn't so much the stopping the drinking; it was actually then dealing with yourself, and actually then dealing with your own thoughts, and actually be accepting that what's in here will come out, and once you can understand what's there, deal with it, you can then be in those social environments a lot more comfortable and be yourself again.
Yeah, that took a while. You're right. I always remember getting to whatever party I was at or going somewhere and saying the first thing, right, I need that drink just to loosen me up, then I'll be all right. You know, just walking. You know, it's like when you walk into a busy environment, even if you've got any, you know, you're quite extrovert.
Extrovert, yeah.
Which I always consider myself to be an extrovert actually, and I'm kind of thinking that maybe I'm not anymore, but that could be because of and I think the drink kind of amplified that feeling in you to think that you are. And so you'd want that drink to sort of calm down and settle your nerves and get into the groove of it, and then you're all right. Yeah, where's that drink? Right, I've had that. I can get on with it now. I don't have that anymore. So now when I go into those environments, sometimes it takes me a while to settle. It does.
Okay.
But honestly, when I weigh it up, feeling a bit uncomfortable for a bit or going home a bit early doesn't compare to the benefits of not drinking.
100%. So look, there's a CEO of Bullhorn, which is a recruitment CRM. He did a presentation I was at a little while ago, and he classed himself as an introverted extrovert.
Yeah, that's probably what I think for myself, actually.
But I'd never heard of that term before.
Yeah.
And then I started Googling it going, okay, I can kind of appreciate that. Whereas, as you say there, you go into a room and first of all, you're slightly apprehensive until you settle, and then once you're into the groove, you're happy to do and talk to whoever it is around you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I kind of, probably sounds like that sort of style there, what you're saying there. So you're now completely down to the cleanest part as anything you can do in this island as such, and you've got this extraordinary opportunity with two mates in Mellenbom. You're friends, right?
Which turned into three, quite. So there's four of us now, but...
Sorry, there's four of you now.
Yeah.
And the world's your oyster, right?
Yeah. Just very quickly, I always not forget to mention one, but because the story starts with the three of us, and there's clearly four of us, and one's been there from right at the beginning. He came in a couple of months later. We got a gig at Space, and I just produced a little record with him. We put our vinyl out together, and he filled in because Paul or Ben couldn't make it, and we were like, "Oh, he's good. Let's get him in." And that was like about 2 or 3 months after Mellenbom started. But he wasn't there at the very beginning part, but he did join a couple of months later, and he's been there from the beginning. And actually, Juan has been our musical director, and he's really pushed us where we've gone.
And what's his name?
We are Juan Corbett. Corby's his DJ name.
But the funny thing, you just hold a description of him and didn't mention his name once.
Oh, sorry. Juan. I said Juan, didn't I? Sorry. I did.
Oh, I missed it.
You know, you missed it.
I mean, was his name?
Juan Corby.
Juan. I think I heard you say one.
Yeah. Ah, right.
The one extra member, not...
Yeah.
That's my hearing. So, okay, so he's definitely the fourth member.
He's the fourth member, and he's been there since more or less at the beginning, but not the first couple of months where the story starts. Yeah.
Okay, so world's your oyster. You're now getting bookings coming all over the place.
Yeah.
What is your kind of most... So Glitterbox is at the present probably one of your main gigs alongside Pikes.
Yep.
And then do you mainly work collectively as a group, or are you doing your own things as well?
So we play Mellenbom. It started as an event. It was never going to be a DJ collective that went out and DJ'd. We just wanted to put parties on for our mates and play the music we liked and we thought was good. So that's how we started. And then I think by the end of that year, I think someone tried to... We got booked to play on the slopes in over in...
Austria?
Verbier. And I think that was probably one of the first times we went out as a group, actually. And three of us went over, and we took our missus with us, and we played that. And then from there, we started getting bookings. And because there's four of us, we would mostly go out in twos. And then we got booked to play Glitterbox, and then Simon Dunmore had a meeting with me and Paul. Asked us what we were about, and then we got a phone call a couple of days later to tell us he wanted us on his agency.
Wow.
Which is Colluded, which we're still on now. So it's Defected's own agency. It's called Colluded. So we're on their agency, and they book us. We started playing a few times at Defected in London. We played at Printworks. We played for Glitterbox all over the place. Bali, we played for them. Juan was over in Brazil while I was playing in. When me and Paul were playing in London at Printworks, so yeah, we're all over the place.
So it's going all over the place.
Yeah.
And then the last.
So that's Mellenbom. So you asked me about the solo stuff, and then solo, I've started to get a few. I've started to push my solo career a bit.
Is that a change of direction on music, or is it separate to what Mellenbom play?
It's slightly different. I like to play, when I play on my own, I play a little bit more Afro-y. We put Afro elements into Melon Bomb, but I tend to play longer sections of Afro stuff and that kind of deeper stuff. But my productions are a bit of a mixture, really, kind of a bit deepy, jazzy, and hip hop, as you know.
And a bit of garage house.
And a bit of garage, yeah.
So, what was your musical influences then growing up? Obviously, you mentioned about some of the records you brought over here, but was that where it started out, or was it something your parents used to listen to that influenced you in your kind of musical tastes?
When my mum and dad used to listen to all kinds of stuff, like Joe Cocker, and my dad liked Led Zeppelin or The Who, The Small Faces. My mum liked a bit of lovers rock reggae, but growing up in London, the music was we were very much influenced by black music. Mm-hmm. Whether it be soul, reggae, and then hip hop hit in the early 80s, and that was just my life. That was me. That was the music I first properly. Well, before that it was kind of two-tone and ska, but I was a bit young to go out and be in that world. But by the time I was old enough to be in that world, it was hip hop and soul and funk and stuff like that, and reggae parties. But hip hop specifically just totally just drew me in.
Enthralled you and kept you there.
Massively. And we used to break dance and body pop and do graffiti and stuff like that.
Skateboard?
Not really a boarder, no. My brother was a bit of a boarder, but not me.
Okay.
No.
So you've just released a couple of new tracks?
Yeah, I had my first solo release, and I put it out under the name Chapter, which is my artist name, on Nervous. So it was a hip hop track with featuring a girl called Clever Thoughts from the States.
So for the people who know, Nervous is one of the most iconic record labels worldwide, New York based. And has one of the most fantastic pictures, logos that's been used many times over the years. And for me, it's one of my favourite labels above anything else, Nervous. So I love everything from the 90s onwards, very much hip hop, the house, the underground house, as you were talking about earlier on. And obviously that's all merged into a bit of garage house as well. So a lot of my influence is probably in line with yours.
Yeah, right.
So when I saw you, obviously had released something on Nervous, I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And did you feel the same way?
Yeah. Massively. I was blown away, actually.
How'd that come about? So it's not like, hello, we're Nervous Records, we know Scott Gray, how would you like to put something out?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie, using the Melon Bomb name opens doors.
Yeah.
So when I sent a demo out, and I sent it out as a punter, and I didn't have any connections, I went to their demo section and found out who the two to email, and just said, I'm from Melon Bomb, my name's Scott. And I'm sure that must have picked up some ears, because not everybody's heard of Melon Bomb, but most of the industry and our thing, by now, luckily, they know who we are.
Okay.
Because of who we've played with and all the rest of it.
Yeah, but you're looking to release a more hip-hop track,
yes,
not house of what you'd be known for.
Yeah, well, yeah, but so, okay, so when I've been working with a friend of mine who's a really talented producer, and he helped me make these two tracks. I actually made three. I made this deep kind of piano-y track, We'll Trade for Art.
Yeah.
Now that came about, We'll Trade for Art, is because the guy that played the piano on it, Alex O'Brien, plays for the Ibiza House Orchestra, which are now called the White Island Orchestra.
Right.
He's a keyboardist. I usually used to bung him €50 to play some keyboards for me.
Yeah.
And this time he said, oh, can I have one of your art prints? I went, yeah, okay, let's do that. So he played some piano. I gave him an art print, called the track We'll Trade for Art. That's a house track with some piano on it. And I also wanted to make a hip-hop track, and I wanted to make a garage track. And in my mind, I could put them all out together, like as a weird kind of lot of EP. And then sent it out to a few companies. Worked with the rapper, Clever Thoughts from the States. I found her on AirGig, a site where you can find artists and people to
She's
work
got a cool
with.
voice, very
She's
cool
amazing.
voice.
She sounds a bit like Missy Elliott, doesn't she? She's incredible. In fact, I'm doing some other stuff with her now. And where was I going with this? So sent the three tracks out as a package to about 3 or 4 labels, and literally that night, Nervous came back to me and said, oh, we like the house one and we like the rap. If you want to put those out of us, that's great, but we're not going to use the garage one. What do you think about that? And I kind of sat on it, actually, because it was just before Christmas. And I was going to sign in with another label. I'm not going to mention them, but they were really kind. They were going to take it on. But over Christmas, I'm thinking, but it's Nervous. it's nervous. You know what I mean? It's like if you're into
Mike
hip hop,
nervous.
if you're into hip hop, it's Tommy Boy or Def Jam, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't matter that the stuff isn't perhaps what it was,
Correct.
and you could say that maybe a bit nervous that the stuff isn't maybe as iconic as it was back then, but it's still nervous, you know. And a friend of mine said it's nervous.
But like you say, the username Melonbomb holds weight.
Yeah.
Username Nervous Records.
Yeah. So I was stupid not to do it, and I'm really pleased I did. So that came out last month, and then at the same time, so because I had that odd garage track, if I wanted to get that signed, because you really these days people want 2 or 3 records at a time to put as EPs. No one's putting out singles really. The smaller labels don't anyway. They like to, even Nervous isn't small, but it still has that. It's not a major, you know.
Sure.
So the small kind of cool record labels, they always want at least 2 tracks usually. So I had this one garage track on its own, so I needed to make another garage track to go with it, which was so nice.
Yeah.
And I sent it out, and then Mark Cottrell kindly picked up on that one. Again, I just did it for usual channels. Didn't use any contacts to get to him.
Yeah.
Just mailed it to him. I think maybe found him on Bandcamp, but did say I'm Scott from Melonbomb, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. So that comes out tomorrow. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's on Plastic People Records.
Plastic People Records, yeah.
And Mark Cottrell's a legend in the house garage scene. But that's when you said to me you're releasing a garage track, I was like, okay, didn't put 2 and 2 together on that one. And also on the hip hop one, I was like, wasn't expecting that.
Well, do you know what? I'm gonna level with you a bit as well. I was never into UK garage, not because I didn't like it. I just went down this path. I went down more of a house path, and you know, and I love drum and bass, but I don't know much about it. I didn't go down a drum and bass path. I went down a house path, and I kind of narrowed myself with that. But I always like that kind of drum and bass sound, like that kind of garagey sound. But you know, it's like it went off in so many different directions, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I went one way. And of late, what I love about the scene at the moment is it's kind of gone back to where it was when it first started, in that you could hear, you know, hard house, garage house, soulful house, 2-step drum and bass. You can hear, maybe not quite as extreme as that, but you can hear a lot of that in you know, people are kind of mixing the genres a little bit more. Maybe not as extreme as that, but not far off. And you can hear a bit of drum and bass. You can hear a little bit of garage in the sound. And the kids who are making the most incredible music at the moment now are emulating that sound from the late 90s, early 2000s, and are coming out with some amazing music.
Well, there's a lot of breaks coming into stuff as well.
Breaks coming. These guys I was talking to you about earlier, before we did this interview, these Dutch guys called Another, ANOTR. I mean, they've got melon, you know, they're like Melonbomb at their heart without realising it.
Yeah.
You know, they're a lot bigger than we are as well. They're massive now. But they are doing that, and they're young. They're young kids, and they're playing this some incredible stuff. And it's just all over the place.
So from a musical point of view, what's the future then for Scott Gray and Melonbomb? What is there? Is there a plan to go bigger as a collective, or is it very much Ibiza-centric and whatever comes with it?
Yeah, we plan to take over the world.
Excellent.
Yeah, stage by stage. We're going to buy a hotel.
Cool.
We're going to start our own airline.
Nice.
And energy drink company.
In the next 12 months?
Yeah, probably. No, I don't. Listen, I'll keep on doing what we're doing. For us, it's all about quality control of music. That's the most important thing. And it seems to be serving us. We're growing really, really slowly year on year, but it's at a good, steady pace. You know, we feel like we're not taking 3 steps forward, or we're not jumping too quickly. We're taking that. We're 8 years now, so in 2 years' time, maybe we'll be an overnight success.
I like that. So for someone who's never been to a Melonbomb night, and obviously seen yourselves DJ as a collective, we've talked about a lot of your influences, the music you listen to, etc., and we've obviously mentioned about house. Is it a combination of all those pieces we spoke about, or is there a sound that comes out of Melonbomb?
Yeah, there is a sound. We don't play hip hop. It is house. We used to say that we were kind of the disco style of house. We dropped that now because we're not. You'll hear a couple of disco tracks, but only a couple these days in each of our sets. When we're asked now, we just say we play house music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just good house music.
Yeah, but it's new music that's got a nostalgic feel.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it has that 90s, because obviously I always look at the 90s as being, personal view, the best time for music.
Yeah.
I'm sure every generation says the same thing.
Yeah, no, 90s is incredible.
But obviously from the relative of Ibiza, the the background. And let's be honest, the people still on the billboards today, most of them are from the 90s.
Yeah.
A good chunk of them.
Yeah,
are still
it's
from
a
the
lot of old
90s.
DJs are really doing well again now, which is great to see. I'm 53 and I feel like I'm at the beginning of my career, really.
And I really love that statement.
Yeah.
That's a really cool statement to say.
Yeah.
Because we haven't asked about your age yet, we haven't spoken about that.
Right.
So at 53,
Yeah.
you're the forefront face of entertaining the 20 pluses.
Well, our crowds are 20 plus to 50 plus to 60 plus, I guess, really. Literally, you go to a Melbourne party and all generations are there. But it's not just kids that are reluctantly coming with their parents. They're into the music, they're into the scene. They're loving what we loved all those years back, and it's so great to see.
It's cool, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. And I guess like I don't feel old as a DJ because there's plenty of DJs way ahead of me in their 60s now, still smashing it. You know what I mean?
And still getting booked, still getting everything there.
big bookings.
100%.
And doing well, yeah. And it's good to see that it doesn't. It's like rock music. It doesn't have an age.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Good music's good music, isn't it?
It transcends the generations.
Yeah.
So 13 years on the island.
Yeah.
What of yourself personally have you seen? How's it changed for you, or what have you seen differently, or have you picked up going, it wasn't quite like that?
Yeah, I really try to refrain from the good old days. It's not as good as it was type of conversations, because I believe in progressing and looking forward and moving, and Melbourne certainly do that. So I try not to do that. I mean, you can't help yourself sometimes because, those Sundays at Space were magical. You've been to a manumission on a Monday night, going into Space on a Tuesday morning. That doesn't exist anymore. But it doesn't mean there aren't great things anymore.
No, not at all.
When you, like my nephews are in their early 20s now, mid-20s, and they come and they're blown away by it. They get here and to them it's as fresh as it was to us. They've never seen anything like it.
To their own generation.
Yeah, it's still mind-blowing to them, the clubs, the production, the this, the that, everything. So I think the magic is still there. It's just that obviously the longer you've been here, your magic was a long time ago. And, I don't club as much as I would have done, I work in the industry, I don't drink anyway, so...
But an interesting conversation point, something you probably just talking there, the production quality of events, that has changed.
Yeah.
If you look at Ushuaia,
Yeah.
The huge scales of the parties, of what is and the experiences people get now from those nights.
Yeah.
That wasn't there when you first got to the island.
No, I mean, you say that, and I know what you mean. You go into Pasha, and that was the first part. That was the first club I went to when I came here, and I remember walking into that main room, and it was like an explosion of things hanging from the ceiling, and beautiful dancers that were whether you could work out whether they're men or women, drag acts, and just Eric just all going off, and it was just, what is this? That was production then. Now it's a lot more kind of, I guess, electronic and screens and stuff, and booms and whistles and that kind. Which we didn't have that then, but we did have production. It's just different.
Okay.
It's just different. Whereas now it's more technologically advanced when it comes to production, I suppose. Is the way to look at it.
And scaled.
But I mean, Space didn't have much, did it? Because it was all in the daytime.
Yeah.
Inside was kind of dark and just lights, I suppose. Yeah, But high, you go inside. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, yeah.
But does it blend because you've been?
Ushuaia is different. Ushuaia is different, I suppose. That's more like a rock concert, isn't it?
It's like, and I think that's what I was kind of getting to. Are people turning up now for it to feel like a concert rather than sometimes a pure club event?
Yeah,
Are they expecting bigger?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Probably. But at the same time, Pikes. A tiny little place, low ceiling, small little venue, few hundred in there, going off. When we play at High, we play in all three rooms. We're fortunate. But when we're playing in Wild Corner, which is the toilets, which is the third room, honestly, it's tiny. And we have people that go in there and don't leave there. They go in there all night, just stay in there all night and come out. And that's a tiny little. That's not big production. That's just proper having it.
100%.
And it's all ages. So there's room for both still.
But I think but flip it the other way, I think the room you just mentioned there at High is probably most videoed.
Yeah.
And obviously social media club event. You see every week, anyone who's played there, it's always coming on people's feeds.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at another ways. The Instagram world, the Facebook, the social media, has that changed your world from Melon Bomb's point of view from the earlier days to now? Or do you find it's more the reputation still of the events that's getting the crowds through the door?
Yeah, a bit of both. We were lucky that when we started Melon Bomb, social media was well underway. Do you know what I mean? And to this day, our only promotion is just Facebook and Instagram. We do an event, that's where it goes.
And it sells.
And it sells, and people come. We're very fortunate. We did start in the winter on the island. Remember I told you you make all your best contacts? I believe it's the same with Melon Bomb. We started in the winter doing winter parties. That by the time we got to the summer, the people that started to follow us would bring their friends that come over on holiday, and that kind of grew us that way.
Okay.
So they would go over and talk about us, and then they'd bring their friends, and that's kind of how we grew as a brand on the island. But we were lucky enough that we did have social media all the way. There's videos, footage from some of our early parties. Like there's one of us at Jockey Club when we used to do that before we moved to Tannet, because we do daytime parties at Tannet as well. And there's still some videos that give me goosebumps when I see them. It's the whole place is jumping, and that was like the first year of doing Melon Bomb, I think.
But I quite like what you said there, is that
excuse me,
the human element has still been a massive impact on the longevity of Melon Bomb and the ability to keep growing year on year, because you've got to have your core, and everything else around it will happen naturally, right? And the more people obviously enjoy what you do, and the more they see your name about, they just naturally transcend to the events you do, because they know Melon Bomb event's going to be just wicked, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's the feeling you want for people to have.
Yeah, we just, as I said, it's about keeping an eye on the music, make sure the music's good, and the other thing we do is we play uplifting music, and we play music that gets the crowd going. We have it. Do you know what I mean?
It's a happy place.
It's a happy place. I tell you what it is. It's space on a Sunday. It's that vibe, and we've always stuck to that vibe.
That's a really nice way of describing it.
Yeah, and we've often spoken about that actually.
So that's taken from the proper old school.
That style. Do you remember you go in there? It was just hands in the air, smiley, happy people. And without cheese. You can do that with good music.
Yeah, 100%. But that is a different set of culture, as you say, from the island, because at certain points it got very, very heavy.
Yeah.
Everyone was wearing black, tight clothes. I could never fit that. I think that's why I was never into that scene. I'm not going to lie. And I think it just got to a point. I'll be honest.
Got too serious.
Yeah, I think from someone who doesn't. I love all music. It wasn't my scene. I think that put me off for a while to come to Ibiza. And
the thing is, you can still have some of that music, but just not all night long. You know, we'd go in and out of that. We'll dip into some of that, but dip out again.
Yeah.
And then
take them through the journey.
Yeah, take a little journey, a musical journey as well. Yeah.
And final thing to discuss: you're a grandfather.
Thanks for bringing it up.
It's a fantastic thing, right?
It's one of the things I'm one of the most proudest of. Yeah.
How's the grand?
She is 3, and I'm going to see her out in 2 days, and I can't wait.
Very cool, right?
Yeah, I'm going over tomorrow, and I'll see her on Saturday. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's when I had Luke, I was really young. I was 20, and I made my mum and dad young grandparents, for which at the time they weren't happy until Luke was born, and then they loved it. They embraced it. But I was still like 10 years ahead of all of my mates. You know, I was 20 when he was born. My mates had their kids in their 30s.
Yeah.
But by the time when he announced to me that he was having a baby, he was like nearly 30, which is a better age.
Yep.
And I was like, what? You know, and because I'd had him young, I was still fairly young. So I wasn't 50 then. So I was like, you're going to make me a granddad before I'm 50? Oh, I wasn't happy about it. And I remember my mum ringing me up, pissing herself, laughing at me. You're going to be a granddad. You know how it feels. And I wasn't happy. But again, the minute she was born, I'm telling you, it's when you have grandchildren, it's a weird thing. It's you don't think you've got enough love in your heart for any more people in your family, right? You know, you love your kids, you love your mum and dad, you love your sisters and cousins, whatever it is, brothers and sisters. And I didn't think that there was any more space. And along comes this other one and parks herself right in the middle of your heart and just sits there, and you just it's weird, it's deep.
And melted you?
Melt, honestly. She's got me wrapped around her little finger. And my dad, who's a great granddad, they're best mates, because like they're in England still, so they get to see her like once a week, which you know, I do sometimes wish I could see her more, but I do FaceTime her kind of every other day, and I see her usually once every 2 months, and they come here and we go over there. But my dad is they're best mates, my dad and my granddaughter, which is amazing.
What a nice way to end
Yeah.
the podcast today.
Yeah.
So, Scott, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate
Mate,
it.
thanks for dragging all that out of me. I didn't know where that came from. It just flooded out. Sorry.
This is what it's for. You know, we want people to understand and get to know the people behind the different things that people enjoy and go to, and probably don't have the opportunity to actually know who Scott Gray is, and hopefully understand a bit more about yourself and Melon Bomb. So if people want to find Melon Bomb, understand where you're playing and when Melon Bomb events are, how do they find you?
If you just Google Melon Bomb Music or Melon Bomb Ibiza, you'll find our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're on the Defected YouTube channel. You'll find videos of us, information about where we're playing, mostly on the Facebook and Instagram pages actually. We're doing plenty of stuff in the UK this year as well, so yeah, just look out for us.
And from a production point of view, you're known as Chapter.
So my solo productions, I've got 3 things I'm involved with.
Just make it more
4
awkward.
things actually. Chapter's my own solo stuff. I'm working on a project with a guy called Mick Wilson, who's a producer in his own right, and is also the editor of DJ magazine in Ibiza, called Kuara, which is an old BMX brand. They remember the big Kuara bike? And that's real kind of deep, sort of weird, kind of trippy kind of music. I've got a project that I'm doing with these Italian guys called Capitolo 3, which we've just done a track with Roetta, and that's coming out in September. And you know Roetta from the Happy Mondays.
Yeah.
She's done some vocals for us. And then Melon Bomb, we've got some music coming out in September as well.
Hard trance, right?
Hard trance, Gabba, Confusion, with
German nosebleed,
country and western vocals. So, yeah,
very nice. I look forward to that one coming out. So that's where we can find Scott Gray. So this has been Inside Success with Scott Gray. Thank you very much. Cheers, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. Really enjoyed that. Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Inside Success. I hope you enjoyed what was said today and found something quite inspirational, that there's never too late to start again and do something you're passionate about. If you want to find out more about Scott Gray, you can find him on Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud and Mixcloud as DJ Scott Gray. Nice and easy to find. And if you are lucky enough to find yourself in Ibiza and Scott Gray or Melon Bomb are playing, make sure you find them, as you have a great time. Just one last note, if you do enjoy this podcast, please like, share, and put a cheeky review so others know where to find it. Thank you very much again for listening. Catch you next time.